Tonight, you're going to tap your card for a coffee. You won't think about it. The number will go down, the coffee will come out. That's it. But for most of human history, that transaction would have made no sense at all, because for most of human history, money was a promise. A physical, breakable, backed by something promise. And on one weekend in August of 1971, that promise was quietly broken. You felt the effects of that weekend every single day since. You just never knew it had a date. Here's where it starts. After World War II, the world's economies were in ruins. Someone needed to decide what money would even mean going forward. So in July of 1944, delegates from 44 countries gathered at a hotel in Bretton Woods, New Hampshire. They built a system, a simple one, on paper. The US dollar would be tied to gold at a fixed rate of $35 per ounce. Every other currency would be tied to the dollar. The dollar was the anchor. Gold was the anchor's anchor. What did this mean for you, if you'd been alive then? It meant your money was a claim ticket, not just a number. A claim ticket on something real, sitting in a vault. In theory, any country holding US dollars could walk up and trade them in for actual gold. The system had a name for this. Convertibility. It sounds boring. It was anything but. Think about what that actually required of the United States. Every dollar sent overseas was, in a sense, a small promise. A promise that somewhere in a vault in Fort Knox, or in the basement of the Federal Reserve Bank of New York, there was gold sitting quietly, waiting, in case anyone ever asked for it back. This wasn't just an accounting trick, it was discipline, built directly into the architecture of money itself. You could not simply decide to create more dollars. You needed more gold first, or the whole promise started to strain. For about 2 decades, this worked. The dollar became the currency the entire world trusted. Central banks stacked it. Countries settled trade in it. America, for its part, could print dollars, and as long as people believed those dollars were backed by gold, the system held together. Economists at the time called this the Bretton Woods system, and for a while it delivered something rare. Stability, across borders, without constant currency chaos. But here's the problem nobody likes to admit about promises. They only work if you can keep them. By the late 1960s, the United States had a problem. It was spending heavily. The Vietnam War was expensive. Domestic social programs were expensive. And America was doing something it had never really had to reckon with before. It was printing more dollars than it had gold to back. The numbers tell the story better than any summary can. In 1949, the United States held roughly 700 million ounces of gold. By 1971, that reserve had fallen by more than half, even as the number of dollars circulating around the globe had multiplied many times over. The gap between promise and proof kept widening year after year, and eventually it became too wide to ignore. Foreign governments noticed. France, under Charles de Gaulle, started doing something almost aggressive. It began cashing in its dollars for actual gold, shipping crates of bullion out of American vaults, reportedly even sending a French naval vessel to help carry it home. Other countries watched and started to wonder the same thing. What if everyone did that at once? What if the world tried to redeem the promise all at the same time? The math did not work. By 1971, the United States held gold reserves, worth a fraction of the dollars circulating around the globe. The vault could not cover the claim tickets, not even close. Behind closed doors, a small group of advisors met at Camp David that August to figure out what to do about it. And the decision they reached would be announced to the public with almost no warning at all. So on August 15, 1971, President Richard Nixon went on television on a Sunday night and announced something he called a new economic policy. Buried inside it was one sentence that would outlast every other part of that speech. The United States would temporarily suspend the convertibility of the dollar into gold. Temporarily. That word did a lot of work that night. 50 plus years later, it has never been reversed. His Treasury Secretary, John Connolly, was blunt about the reasoning behind closing what people started calling the gold window. He reportedly told European finance ministers something that has echoed through economics ever since. The dollar is our currency, he said, but it's your problem. Read that again. It tells you everything about how this decision was actually made, not for the world's benefit, for America's. What happened next is the part that changed your life, even though you weren't born yet. Nothing backed the dollar anymore, not gold, not silver, nothing physical at all. The dollar became what economists call. You can see the fingerprints of this decision everywhere in your life, even if you've never once thought about gold. Why does a dollar today buy so much less than a dollar bought in 1970? Because money creation is no longer tethered to anything scarce. The supply can expand, and when supply expands faster than the goods and services it's chasing, prices rise. You call this inflation. Economists call it exactly what it is: the quiet tax nobody voted for. To put a number on it, a dollar in 1971 has the buying power of roughly $8 today. That is not an accident of nature. That is what an unanchored currency does over half a century. Why do governments run enormous deficits now in ways that would have been unthinkable under the old system? Because they can. There's no gold ceiling stopping them anymore. Just political will, and eventually the market's patience. Watch how central banks talk during a recession, and you'll hear language that would have been almost meaningless before 1971. Quantitative easing, balance sheet expansion. These are all just modern words for the same basic act: creating money that has nothing physical standing behind it. Why does the value of your savings feel like it slowly evaporates the longer you leave it sitting still? Because it does. A currency with nothing physical behind it needs constant management to hold its value. And management is a human decision, made by people, in rooms, under pressure, not a fixed law of nature. This is also why you'll hear people talk about gold, or Bitcoin, or real estate as a hedge against inflation. What they're really saying, whether they know the history or not, is that they want something that behaves the way money used to behave, before that Sunday night in August. Something with a limit built in. So when you tap your card for that coffee tonight, here's the strange truth sitting underneath that ordinary moment. You are not exchanging a claim ticket on something real. You are participating in a system of collective belief, one that is run continuously, without a physical anchor, since a Sunday night broadcast more than 50 years ago. It hasn't collapsed. That's worth saying clearly. The system has proven remarkably durable. Trust, it turns out, can hold weight that gold never actually needed to. 50 years is a long time for a system built on nothing but belief to keep running without falling apart. Whole generations have now lived their entire financial lives, never once knowing a world where money meant anything else. But durability is not the same as permanence. Every fiat currency in history has eventually faced the same question that gold once answered automatically. What actually stands behind this? For now, the answer is confidence. Confidence in institutions, in central banks, in the idea that tomorrow's dollar will still buy something close to what today's dollar buys. You can see this confidence tested in real time, every time inflation numbers come out higher than expected, every time a central bank raises or cuts interest rates, every time a government's borrowing starts to worry the people lending it money. Each of those moments is really the same question, asked again. Do we still believe the promise, even though there's nothing physical left to back it? That confidence is the entire foundation, not a vault, not a bar of metal sitting somewhere in Kentucky. Belief renewed every single day by billions of people who never think about it, tapping cards, checking balances, trusting a number on a screen. Tonight, you'll tap your card for a coffee. You won't think about it, but now you know what you're really trusting when you do. Not gold, not a promise anyone can redeem, just a decision made on a Sunday night in 1971, and the quiet agreement, renewed every day since, to keep believing in it anyway.